In 1975, Carl Higdon, the chief foreman at the local oil refinery, decided to take the day off work to go hunting. So he heads up to a place called Medicine Bow, the national forest in Wisconsin. When he gets up there, he notices a herd of elk, about 6 elk, standing in the open field. He pulls out his gun and takes aim at the biggest buck. Fires his gun, and then something amazing happens. As he pulls the trigger, he watches the bullet slowly exit his barrel of the gun and fly about 50 feet in slow motion and slowly fall to the ground. Now, he was amazed at seeing this. He'd never seen a bullet exit his gun and fly completely in slow motion like this. And then he gets up and looks around, and he sees a man walking towards him. But this wasn't an ordinary man. As the man came closer, he realized this wasn't a man at all. This guy was from someplace else. He was a very tall individual. But what really set him apart was his looks. He had bright yellow skin, like the worst case of jaundice he had ever seen. And his hair was thick roots, like that of a carrot. And he had 2 antennae appendages coming out of the top of his head. And then his mouth had giant square teeth, maybe 3 or 4 teeth, filling up his mouth. But he had no chin. It went straight down to his neck. So a completely chinless individual. He was wearing what appeared to be a black skin-tight diver's suit with a X going across his chest and a 6-pointed star on his belt. On one arm at the end, there was no hand, and on the other, the hand came to a point and said, "Hi, how you doing?" Carl said, "I'm fine, thank you." And the being said, "Those are impressive animals over there." Carl nodded his head in agreement and didn't know what to say. And the individual asked Carl, "Are you hungry?" And Carl said, "Yes." Not knowing why he said yes. The individual then pointed his pointed hand at his belt, where a compartment opened up and some pills floated out, and they floated over to Carl. Carl instinctively reached out and grabbed the pills and ate one, not knowing why he did that. And then the individual said, "Would you like to go for a ride?" And Carl said, "And what?" And he pointed to what now appeared to be a giant golden rectangle sitting on the ground, made purely of light. It appeared to be around 6 feet long and 3 feet by 3 feet squared. Now, Carl was amazed like this and asked the individual who he was. The creature replied, "My name is Oslo 1. Would you like to go for a ride?" And he agreed. He said, "Sure," not knowing why he agreed. And then instantly he appeared inside of the craft, which is now much larger on the inside, like the Tartarus from Doctor Who. Not only that, but once he was inside, he realized they weren't alone. The elk that he was just hunting were also inside the ship with them. But they were completely frozen, completely inanimate, just standing there. He was amazed at this. Once they got there, the planet was so bright that it was hurting Carl's eyes when he opened them. And then they land on this planet, and Carl is inspected by some other aliens and some machine that came out of the wall and scanned his entire body. And then he got the sense that somehow the machine rejected him. And Oslo 1 said, "Oh well," and asked him to get back into the ship and flew them back home. They dropped off the elk, and then he was dropped off. As he looked up, he saw the craft, this square rectangle glowing box, flying away, and he realized he was 3 miles away from where he had originally parked. And so he's looking around for his vehicle and he stumbles across it. However, his vehicle is in between these trees and area, which could not have possibly drove up there. And the whole area was covered in snow, yet there were no tracks from his vehicle driving to that position. It was as if it was dropped from the air straight down to where it was. He couldn't even get his truck out of there, so he was forced to hike all the way back down to the town, where he went to the local sheriff and explained to them what happened. Of course, everybody laughed at him, thought he was crazy, until the rescuers went back to go to his vehicle and realized that it was stuck in a place where it couldn't have got there. There were no tracks leading up to the truck. They were absolutely amazed at this. And Carl, wanting to prove that his story was true, decided to go and look for more evidence. So he went back to the area where he originally met Oslo 1 and shot at the deer and looked around for the bullet. And amazingly, he found it. And what was so interesting about it is that the bullet had flipped inside out of itself, completely impossible if it had actually hit some kind of target. Now, Carl eventually ended up taking a lie detector test, which he in fact passed. And as unbelievable as this story sounds, they still have no way to explain how the truck got to where it was or how that bullet ended up the way it was. Both of these pieces of evidence suggest that what he is saying is true, along with him passing a polygraph test. Although he could be completely crazy and simply believe what he's saying to be true, and so he would in fact pass the polygraph test. But even if he was crazy and he just simply believed his own delusions, there is no way that he could have gotten that truck in that position without leaving any tracks, or had that bullet deformed the way it was, unless something actually happened to it. This is one of the most amazing encounters I've ever heard of. Whether it's true or not, I'll leave that up to you guys. You guys tell me what you think. All right, UFO Proof out.